if you say yes when your body is screaming no, then this isn't weakness. It's not something you're doing wrong. It's the fawn response. This is what your nervous system does when it's learned that you have to appease the people around you in order to stay safe. You've learned this rule which says, if I keep you happy, then you won't attack me or reject me or leave me. And this isn't a personality trait. It's a safety strategy. It's not who you are. And you can learn to step out of it. And in this video, I'll give you 7 signs to identify this in yourself. And then we'll step into some really good somatic practices that work at the level of the nervous system and not at the level of the mind to help you to step out of this over time. So the first sign is that automatic yes without checking what you actually think or hold. So if someone says, do you want to go see this horror movie? If you are in that fawn response, you'll say yes, yeah, sure. Even if you really hate horror movies and your body's saying, no, I don't want to do that. So before you've even checked in with yourself, there's this automatic, it just happens quicker than you can see actually. This fawn response just comes in instantly. And before you even know what you're doing, you've agreed to something you didn't really want to do. The second sign is that we're continuously scanning other people for signs of how they're receiving what we're saying and doing, how they're relating to us. Their tone, their posture. It's like, are they happy with us? With the fawn response, above all, we're trying not to trigger the other person. And so we're looking out for any slight signs that they might be triggered. Any little bit of hesitation feels unsafe. And so we react to the tiniest things. And we're in this state of vigilance around other people. The third sign is that our preferences and opinions will change based on the context, especially if there are strong personalities around. So I have a memory of being a teenager and leaving a film, leaving the cinema and sort of going, oh, I really liked that movie. And my friend who had quite a strong personality was like, oh no, I thought it was rubbish. And I was sort of immediately changed my mind. Like, yeah, do you know what it was? And making fun of some of the actors in the movie is a way to try to save face and change my mind to stay in alignment with that person. That's the fawn response in action. The fourth sign is over apologizing and over explaining. So if you want to change something that someone is doing, you have to say there's a meeting, you've double booked yourself, you need to tell someone you need to change it. You'll do so in a way where you explain and apologize over enthusiastically, just to really try and make sure that you don't trigger the other person. So I notice I can spot this quite easily in other people. Knowing what I know now about the nervous system, it's very interesting. Someone might come to me and say, hey, can we change this appointment or this meeting? I'll say, yeah, that's no problem. And then they keep going. They go, yeah, because this has happened and that's happened. So I just can't make it anymore. And I go, yeah, that's fine, no problem. And they keep going, I wish I could, and I can see them really trying to overcompensate for what feels to them a very scary thing of changing this meeting or appointment. And I'm sure, many can resonate with that experience as well, or of just continuously trying to over apologize as a way of softening the blow of what is something very reasonable, really, of just saying, hey, I want to change this thing. But this is the difficulty of the fawn response, right? It's very strong. You may have noticed that as well. The fifth one is that this misalignment between inside and outside, you'll be kind of frozen on the inside. You'll feel uncomfortable, tense, rigid, but you've learned to appear kind of calm, relaxed, smiley on the outside. So you might be at a party and someone makes a bit of an off-color joke or says something kind of hurtful or slightly mean to you. And you instantly sort of freeze on the inside because really deep down, you'd want to tell this person exactly what you think, but you just laugh it off on the outside. You're laughing on the outside and your stomach drops on the inside. And again, this is completely innocent. This is just your nervous system keeping you safe, but we can become more aware of this happening in our experience. And that's the first step towards learning to step outside of it. So there's that sort of internal, external misalignment. The sixth one is delayed resentment or anxiety. So what happens is that we get an invitation to a wedding, say, and we say yes because we feel like we have to. But then really it's like, it's like, damn, now I have to spend a whole weekend traveling to the other end of the country, and it's going to cost money, and there's this resentment because we now have to do this thing that we don't want to do, and that anger builds up because we can't express it cleanly with clean boundaries. We can also get anxious. Like, how am I going to manage? Now I don't have time to do this other thing I needed to do because I'm going to this wedding, and we can get very anxious because we feel like we're being overwhelmed because it felt really unsafe to say no to this invitation. Which again, this is all so understandable, but this is the kind of pickle we get in if we don't have these capacities and these skills. The seventh one is that your body will tell on you. Your body keeps the score. It tends not to lie about these things. So you might notice that, as you're going to that wedding, that your throat feels tight, the muscles feel tight, might be shallow breathing. And over the long term, you can even get burnout. You can get, autoimmune disorders. You can get all kinds of physical symptoms can arise from all the repressed emotion, just the disconnect from yourself that is a result of the fawn response of sort of putting up this continuous front. It's a very heavy burden for the body, which then becomes sick. So how can we start to step out of this? Let's get into some somatic practices. There'll be a few different levels, short term, medium term, and long term that I'm going to go through. So in the short term, there's a couple of sort of hacks. The first one is sort of the pause, you could call it. The pause TM. This is when you give yourself, or you learn to give yourself space to think and reflect on what you actually want to do. So just have some stock phrases ready, like, give me a moment to think about that, or let me check and get back to you. And just get used to saying these phrases. You can practice them. Let me check and I'll get back to you soon. And then you can find some time to go away and feel into what you really think and give yourself space, because you need a lot of space here to slowly tiptoe your way towards setting a boundary or saying something that feels scary. You can't just do it in the moment, or it's going to be very hard. And the pause can help with that. The second practice, and this is a really key one, is the body check. So you want to check in with your body, not with your mind, as to what you really think. That's going to give you a much more accurate answer, because your mind will bullshit you all day long. Whereas the body, you can really feel what's going on. So you could just place a hand on the heart, or one on the belly, or both, to start to connect to your body. Noticing how you're feeling. And then just imagine saying yes or saying no to whatever it is that's at issue. So if it's going to this wedding, imagine yourself going to the wedding. Okay, I'm gonna say yes to the invitation. I'm gonna go to the wedding. Maybe you notice the gut start to tighten, or the chest tighten, or maybe you notice some excitement, some relaxation coming in. These are the clues. The tightening and the gut is obviously more of a no. The kind of the excitement, relief, relaxation feels more like a yes, and that gives you a much clearer indication. And you can, sometimes it's a bit ambiguous, but you can get better and better over time at discerning what you really feel through your body. That's really key. A medium-term exercise is to work with the tolerance, building your capacity for disapproval, disappointment in others. Because that's the real crux. It's this sense that if someone else is disappointed with me or annoyed at me, that I'm essentially going to die. It feels like I'm going to die. And that's terrifying. And so we say yes, rather than, disappointing that person. But this isn't an absolute. We can build our capacity to process these emotions, these unsafe feelings that come up. And then it transforms your experience, and it no longer feels unsafe to say no to someone. It's really a process of transforming the emotions and the nervous system responses in the body. That's how you free yourself over the long term from the fawn response. But let's get into this practice. So drop into your body for a moment. Just bring your hands to your heart, to your belly. And I'm going to guide you through this, and you can pause the video and take more time on this. I'm just going to quickly give you an overview of how this might work. We're going to bring up the emotion that is associated with disapproval or disappointment and just spend time with it rather than reacting to it or running from it. So imagine saying no to someone that feels a bit scary to you. So maybe it's your dad. He's a bit overbearing. He's organized this wedding, and you imagine saying, hey, no, I'm not going to come. And you imagine his face, his disappointment face, or his disapproval face, or his annoyed face, whatever it is that person has. You know the face, I'm sure. Imagine and notice how your body responds at being in the presence of that. Your nervous system will immediately start to respond, and see if you can feel where it feels bad, where you're feeling some of that negative emotion start to come in. This might just be tightness. It might be a vague sense of feeling bad. It might be a specific emotion like fear or shame. Rather than reacting to it, see if you can place your attention on it and just be with it. The key to increasing your capacity is to experience fully this emotion. So just staying there with it. Maybe it's some fear in the chest that you're feeling. And just getting really honest, just admitting to yourself the truth of this part of you. I'm afraid Dad's going to be annoyed, and it's going to be really scary. And I can feel that fear. And you're just doing your best to be afraid for a moment and sitting right with that. If it's a bit much, which it may well be, you can take a step back or just drop in for a moment and then retreat. Those are very legitimate and still helpful. See if you can expand that fear in your chest. Just imagine it radiating outwards. That makes it more tolerable to be with. And then just support it with the hands on the heart, or hands wherever you're feeling that emotion or that tension. Just supporting it with your hands to give you a bit of safety as you're feeling this. And you can stay with it as long as you like, as long as it feels manageable. I have a lot more details in my video, How to Feel Your Feelings, that goes into much more detail on how to do this. The key idea though, and then you can kind of shake it off once you feel like you're done, or just bring in a bit of resource for yourself by swaying a little bit, or just looking out at the trees, or having a little walk. The key is to bring up that fear and learn to experience it fully, bit by bit, and expand that capacity. And you'll find that over time, as you expand your capacity, it's actually easier. That emotional reaction will get a little bit softer, and then it's easier to say no. In the long term, we need to learn to establish clear boundaries, which is a question of getting in touch with our anger and learning to say no. So I have many videos on anger. You can check out my ultimate guide to repressed anger for way more details. But in brief, let's embody a little bit of anger by imagining someone who makes you angry. Perhaps it's your dad as well. He's quite overbearing. It annoys you how he is. Just getting in touch with that anger side of yourself, that part within that's a little bit irritated or frustrated, annoyed at him, or just that kind of feeling. See if you can, just imagine him being annoying. If you want to really bring it up, you can imagine him doing something that triggers you in this way. For some, the body may stay blank. It may be hard to get in touch with anger. I'll go and check out my anger videos for what to do in that situation. If you do feel a bit of anger, see if you can notice where it is, how it's coming to you. Maybe it's a bit of fire in the belly. Maybe it's a bit of density in the chest. Maybe it's tension in the shoulders. And being with that, just acknowledging to yourself, hey, I'm angry. Again, we're trying to experience it fully. We're not trying to get rid of it. See if you can let the shoulders tense a little bit, or let the belly be fiery. Just let it be as it is. And acknowledging to yourself, I'm angry. I'm angry. And again, any time spent with anger in this embodied way is going to increase your capacity for that anger. Here you can start to then feel into how the anger wants to move. Maybe it wants to clench the fists a little bit. Maybe the hands want to press into each other. Maybe there's some words that want to come, some sounds. It's a question of letting the sounds come in your head, letting the body move a little bit. That's the practice of embodying anger. If you can repeat that, practice that regularly, it's going to be really helpful for learning, because that anger, that's what we're really terrified of. That anger is our no. That's our sense of who we are. I am this person. This is what I believe. I hated that movie. I don't want to go to the wedding. Suck it up. Not the suck it up bit. That feels kind of aggressive. But this is just this is who I am. And I am allowed to be who I am and have my opinions and go to weddings when I want to and not go to weddings when I don't want to. And that's what this gives you. Then you can practice saying no as well. You could press your hands against the wall and press into them to activate the nervous system a little bit. Feel a little bit of that activation. Just practice different intensities of no and seeing how it feels. So maybe at first you imagine your dad there and you just whisper no, no. See how that feels. See if it was possible to say that. See if maybe there was some fear that comes up. Maybe there was some relief or it felt good. Practice it a little louder. No. Again. And you can pause where it feels like you hit your edge of how intense you can go. Maybe you could try even more intense. No. Again, noticing in the body what kind of reaction you get. And you can stay there and just keep practicing those kinds of things. Feeling the anger, exploring the no's. And over time, you can learn to pause, check in with how you're feeling, build your tolerance for the fear, for the anger. And that's how you step out of the fawn response over time, by building capacity in your nervous system for different difficult emotions and the capacity to express yourself. I do work with people one-on-one to help them with this kind of thing, through somatic healing practices and nervous system practices. So get in touch if you're interested. See you later.